Good morning, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today we are going to continue our lesson. Our topic today, we are going to have the validity and reliability in qualitative research. Validity means, as it is usually used by these terms, I think validity and validity and reliability are two different things. I think in this particular moment, I like to explain more about these two terms. Explain more these two terms as in relation with qualitative research. Okay, validity means the researcher checks for the accuracy of the findings by employing certain procedures. So we have, later on, I will give you some procedures of having validity in qualitative research. While reliability means researchers' approach is consistent across different researchers and different projects. So when you have when you do a research, your approach in a research should be consistent. I mean, the result of your research should be consistent when someone else is doing the same things. What I mean is that in this case, reliability means consistency of the research result. And in a research, we also recognize the terms trustworthiness, authenticity, and credibility, right? So validity is based on determining whether the findings are accurate from the standpoints of researcher, participants, and readers of the account. According to Creswell and Miller, I think the finding of the research should be accurate in this case when the researcher is, the result of the research should be accurate from the point of view of the researcher, participant, and reader, and readers, or participants and readers. So three different parties are very important. The reader agree that this is accurate, and then the member of the participants, or those whom you use as your subject, and then the researcher, you as the researchers or researchers. I think they are three important parties in determining the validity. The terms abound in the research, in the qualitative research literature that addresses validity, such as trustworthiness, authenticity, and credibility. So the terms trustworthiness, authenticity, and credibility are very important in establishing validity of the research. What is trustworthiness? The trust. So the trust of your result, whether your result, or people can trust your result or not. Your result, I mean the research findings, the research result. The research result should be in line with everything. I think in this case, should be people should trust this as a very scientific result. So people will not ask question anymore about your result. And authenticity and credibility, I think those two are very important too in research. So let's have a look at the trustworthiness and authenticity. How will consumers believe your research? and how original is your research. This is talking about authenticity and trustworthiness. So the the two terms are actually in line. I mean, what I mean is that those two terms answer this question, the two questions. How will consumer, I mean readers in this case, or public, public believes your research. So this is about authenticity of your research. This is about trustworthiness of your research. How can you make or ensure your research so that everyone can, I mean, everyone or readers or consumers can believe your research findings? The only way is that you have to follow the scientific procedures correctly, right? So when you go to the field, you have the correct participants or respondents. When you use an instrument and you have the correct instruments, and then when you develop the instrument, you follow the correct procedures of developing the instruments. When you take the sample from the population, you have to choose the correct sampling, and so on and so forth. This is the way to answer, to guarantee that your the research result will be trustworthy in this case, or authentic in this case. What about credible? How credible is it? Credibility. How credible is your research result? This is about credibility. Now, there are strategies, or 8 strategies to establish validity, right? So the first one is triangulations. Triangulation is a kind of examining evidences or evidences from the sources, and using the evidence to build a kinds of coherent justification for themes in this case. So when you have themes in your qualitative research, you have to be able to to make a kind of correct justifications of the theme. You have to be able to make sure that your process of procedures of coming to the themes is correct, your coding is correct, your coding process is correct, and so on, right? So this is if when you get the themes and you get the theme established, for example, so you have you declare, or you declare to the readers that the themes are established by having some source or different sources of data or perspectives from the participants. So in this case, you are building a kind of coherence of the theme when you justify the themes. That's why it is very important for you to know everything about how the procedures of going to the claim, to make a themes or categories and so on. This is coding process. So triangulation in this case is the process of examining the evidence. So you have to make sure that your analysis is objective in this case, not subjective, by having triangulation. The second one is member checking. So determining the accuracy of the quality findings through taking the final report or specific descriptions or themes back to the participants. So when you finish all your analysis, and then you have a kinds of claims or themes over there, and then you have to come back to the field and find some participant, or the participant you have already investigated, and then you discuss your analysis with them. to make sure that everything is correct, everything is on the track. So you have to ask them or clarify them by discussing it with what is it, the member or the participants or the set respondents. This is called member checking. By having member checking, your analysis can what is it, can be objective, because you are not alone. You are what is it, your analysis approved by or verified by the member or the members or the what is it, the participants. The next one is the rich thick description to convey findings. In this case, when you give a kinds of detailed descriptions of setting, for example, or detailed descriptions of themes, in this case, or findings, this will offer many perspectives about the themes, because you are very detailed in this case. Then your result can be more realistic and richer because you are detailed. Then, for example, when you have a finding, then you explain in detail the finding from every perspective and from the what is it, the right procedures, and then you have a kinds of what is it, the different kinds of data and so on. So this will bring you into a kinds of rich description or thick descriptions to convey your findings, right? That's why it is one of the strategies to establish validity. The next one is clarifying the bias. So the researcher brings to the study when the when they start investigating something, they bring a kinds of bias, right? So to clarify the bias, you have to make a kinds of self-reflections, you know, a kinds of self-reflection that creates an open or honest narrative that will resonate with the readers, right? In this case, reflectivity is a kinds of something that you have to think more about. And the analysis, you do the analysis more than once, or you get many times to analyze this to clarify the bias. So this is called self-reflections. The next one is negative information or discrepant information, negative or discrepant informations. You know that because real life is sometimes composed of different perspectives that do not always coalesce. Yeah, coalesce. This is do not always in one unity. So you need to discuss the contrary informations, right? In this case, so adding the on the contrary topics means you make your analysis united. I mean, when you have a kinds of analysis, you have to put not only the positive one but also the negative one. It means that in this case, it means that you are making a kinds of analysis based on every angles in this case. That's why it is a need for the researcher to make a kinds of negative information that will counter the findings, and then counter the themes, and then you can make a kinds of argument over there, and finally you decide or you determine one particular argument after you have many many discussions with the opposites, something like this. So by having such kinds of thing, I think in general, we have a kinds of good perspective, because after you get the positive one, you compare to the negative one, and so on. The next one is spending prolonged time in the field. This is also one of the ways to establish validity. Prolonged time means you develop an in-depth understanding of the phenomena under study, and you can convey detail about sites and people that lends credibility to your narrative account in this case. So in this time, I think the researcher will have a kinds of prolonged time in the field. You have to not only in a very short time or at glance see the phenomena and quickly go to the desk and analyze, but you have to have more time over there. I mean, in the field, to see the phenomena clearly, to understand completely the phenomena. Otherwise, you will have very a kinds of not complete analysis, right? Incomplete analysis. The next one is peer debriefing. Peer debriefing means this is locating a person or peer debriefer who reviews and asks questions about our result of qualitative research. So peer debriefer means someone who reviews or ask question about the result of our analysis. So you put someone to to make it, of course, someone who knows everything, who knows more about the issue we investigated. This is together with the researcher. I think this person will be involved in the analysis in this case. So this is called peer debriefing. Peer means the ones who who are under the same level with us as the researcher. And the next one is external auditor. Yeah, external auditor. I think this is a very popular triangulator or something like establishing the way, the very popular way to establish the validity in the qualitative research, external auditor. So external auditor is not familiar with the research or the project, but they can assess, right? They can assess objectively the result of the project, right? So it is different from the previous one, that the peer debriefer. The peer debriefer is someone who knows well about this and involved in the analysis, but the external editor is someone else. I mean, someone who, who are not familiar, or the ones who are not familiar with the researcher or the project, but can make an objective assessment of the project throughout the process, of course, throughout the process and the conclusions of the project or study. So those are 8 strategies. So I repeat once again. Number 1 is triangulation. Number 2 is member checking, and then number 3 is rich, thick description to convey findings. And then number 4 is clarifying bias, and then negative and discrepant informations, and then peer debriefing, prolonged time, and external auditor. By having such kinds of strategies, I think you can make, or you can you can make your results objective in this case, so you will get the valid, your result valid. In terms of validity, there are two kinds of validity: internal and external validity. Internal validity is or involves credibility, transferability, dependability, and confirmability. These are internal validity. Internal validity. So how research finding match reality? This is the global understanding of the internal validity. So in a quality, compared to quantitative research, in a quantitative research, internal validity means something related to your instrument, right? But external validity in quantitative research, something related to the population and sample, how to take the population from the sample. But in a qualitative research, internal validity involves the credibility, transferability, dependability, and confirmability, while external validity is concerning with the the extent to which the findings of one study can be applied to other situations. So the internal validity means how your research finding match reality, while in an external validity, how your research finding can be, how can your research finding be applied to other situations. The difference between the two, I think, is clear, right? Now we have the so-called reliability or consistency. Reliability or consistency means the extent to which researcher finding can be replicated. Replicated is repeated. It means when you have the same topics of research, you repeat it in other places. This is called replica or replicated. So when you have, for example, you do a research on the, let's say, motivation for learning English, for example, and then you do it in Samarinda as a context, or as a context, yes, and then someone else is doing the same topic, motivation in learning English, in Java, for example, or in Makassar, for example. So those are different places. I mean, researches in different places, but the same issue. So in this case, the issue is replicated or repeated by someone else. Now, there are also strategies for establishing reliability. So these are 4 strategies for establishing reliability. The first one is check transcripts. Checking transcripts. You have to check the transcript to make sure that they do not contain obvious mistakes during the transcription. So after you get the transcripts from interview, for example, you check it again. After you get the transcript from the observation records, and then you check it again to find some mistakes, for example. Then you can revise the mistake or put it out, the mistakes, and so on. And then secondly, make sure that there is no drift in the definition of codes. A shift in the meanings of codes during the process of coding. The main procedures of qualitative research is the coding. In the codings, you have to see the definition of the themes, right? The codes. The codes means labels. Labels. By having such kinds of label, I think it is very important to have quite clear definitions about the code. For example, if you have, okay, my code says, one of my codes is good teacher, for example, good teacher. What do you mean by good teacher? You have to be very clear, right? Otherwise, you cannot define such kinds of, or you cannot argue or create a kinds of what is it, argument in this case, because definition is not clear. So definition should be clear first, right? So when you get the kinds of subcodes, for example, or the categories or the themes, you have to be clear in terms of defining such kinds of themes or categories. The third one is coordinating the communication among the coders by regular documented meetings and by sharing the analysis. So if you involve many teams, I mean, many people in the team, you can coordinate your terms in codings. I mean, your code should be agreed by some the what is it, the coders. I mean, if you have more coders, I think if you do the thesis, you don't have to do this because you are making the codes by yourself alone. The next one is cross-checking or cross-checking the code. So researchers in this case, you have to compare the codes by, I mean, by having some other codes from other researchers. So when you define your codes, you have to be clear that your codes are universal in terms of other researchers. So don't make a kinds of definition of codes, themes, or categories by yourself without any, what is it, confirming to others. I mean, in this case, is the under the same field, to the same experts and so on. So, for example, if you have kinds of competitive teachers, for example, saying what is it, certificated teacher, for example. So you have to compare your definition of certificated teachers to others in Indonesia. I mean, to other researchers, what kinds of things called certificated teachers, for example. So you have to make a kinds of, comparing the result. Sometimes this is called cross-checking codes, right? Well, thank you, everyone. This is the, what is it, the topic of validity and reliability of the qualitative research. I think that's all. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone.